Greetings, this is ObiWan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun, and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, production has officially began on Star Wars Ahsoka. We've also got the press tour for the ObiWan Kenobi show kicking off in Europe, and we are so close to Star Wars Celebration. We got lots of updates and announcements coming up for that. All that and so much more on the episode. My name is Chris, and joining me live from the NHL playoffs, it's Mr. Dominic Jones.
Yeah, hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Yeah, for the first portion of the show, I'm here, but I'm not here. This is like some Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness kind of thing going on, where I've got 1 foot in the Star Wars galaxy and 1 foot very firmly at Amalie Arena in Tampa Bay, where the Game 6 of the Tampa Bay Lightning versus Toronto Maple Leafs is happening right now. We're actually starting the show at a perfect time because we're in between the second and third period, and the Leafs are currently leading 3-2. So those of you that are hockey fans who are listening to this on Friday will know whether a very sad thing happens in the next few minutes or a very happy thing happens in the next few minutes. We'll see how that plays out. But yeah, so I might be a little bit distracted for the first half of the show, but rest assured, I'm here. I'm ready to talk some Star Wars. You just might have to deal with a little bit of extra cheering this week, because I'm really hoping that it's not just going to be a good show or a great show, but a tremendous, exceptional, wonderful, beautiful, first playoff series win since 2004 spectacular show.
I'm waiting for you to whip the air horn out.
Oh man, if they win, there might be some singing.
And that's not going to be Comic-Con this time.
No. No, the goal song when the Leafs score at home is "You Make My Dreams Come True" by Hall & Oates. So we may be busting that one out.
Nice.
A+.
Fantastic. Also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, we're remarkably close to Star Wars Celebration, so much so that I completely lost track of it, and I had a very, very dumb conversation / argument with my mom a couple days ago, because she's like, "Oh yeah, we're a couple weeks away." I'm like, No. We're like 4 weeks away. No. You're wrong. I'm like, oh, damn, you're right. It's like 2 weeks. Oh my God. I have so many things to do.
It's less than 2 weeks.
Yeah. So like, it's kind of crazy. I'm like, I leave in like less than 2 weeks. This is, okay. It's starting to set in. So I'm starting to panic. I went from like, kind of stress to like, oh, that's in the far future, to excitement. It's happening. I got my plane booked and everything like that. It's great. And then now it's panic. Now it's just madness of like, I have so many things. I have to pack. I gotta fit. Somehow I have to fit this thing into my backpack. How am I gonna do that?
Yeah, there is no, Ben, I know it's going to be a challenge, but if the top hat does not show up in Anaheim.
See, I know this.
To quote Uncle Owen, there will be hell to pay.
There are two ways to do this. Either you get on the plane with the top hat on, which is really easy because I know you don't wear hats, so we know it's not going to be supplanting something else. And then the second thing is whatever you were going to bring to the convention, you put inside the top hat, and then you put that in the bag.
there's a chance I could just end up wearing like the same t-shirt and shorts the entire weekend because I didn't have room for any
Get
other
on
clothes.
the plane with 3 t-shirts on.
Yeah,
1,
3
2,
t-shirts.
3.
Oh,
You
that's
just put them
on and the top hat. Ben, won't you please think of the flight attendants because they're having a bad day. Just imagine the flight attendants. They're having a bad day. There's a bunch of annoying people, some Karens, all that stuff on the flight.
Yeah.
And the only thing that will bring them joy is seeing this ridiculous man from Mississippi get on the flight in 3 t-shirts and a top hat and no pants for some reason.
The pants are
I
also
feel
on
like
your arms.
if I'm gonna go for the top hat, I have to go all the way. I have to get like a nice dress jacket, a monocle, some nice slacks. You know, just go all the way. You know, yeah. So, just get all the
bow
stairs.
tie, Ben. Bow tie. Bow ties are cool.
There you go. There you go.
Wear it. But where actually, celebration's 2 weeks away. You know where we'll be in exactly 2 weeks' time, right? Or we'll be at IHOP eating some pancakes and talking about Star Wars. We are 2 weeks away. We want to remind you, of course, that we are doing our day 1 after party across the street at the IHOP. We're going to have a great time. We're going to do a live podcast. We're going to have some live music from our friend Din from F105. We're going to give away some stuff. There's going to be lots of opportunities for anybody who's there that wants to get on the podcast. You want to share your thoughts on day 1 of celebration. You'll get that chance. We're going to have just a great time. The event is free, but we're selling, quote unquote, tickets on Eventbrite. They are, of course, free. You don't actually have to pay for anything. So we're just asking everybody that wants to come gets a ticket just so we can get a sense of how many people will be there. The link to buy the tickets or not even buy the tickets, to get your ticket through Eventbrite will be in the description for this episode, whether you're listening to it on audio or you're watching it on video. It will be there, and you can click on it, get your tickets, and we hope to see you there to eat some pancakes and talk about Star Wars and just have some all-around good times in the few hours between the end of day 1 and the premiere of the first couple of episodes of ObiWan Kenobi on Disney+. I mean, I can think of no better way to spend that time than at IHOP with us, right?
It's going to be so fun. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
We're also going to force all of you to do a pancake eating contest. And no, it's going to be great.
Genuinely, I feel like we should consider that. I think that's that would set our party apart from all of the other parties at Celebration. Not only would it be at IHOP, but we could set a Guinness Book of World Records for most pancakes consumed during a Star Wars convention. Like the records are so ridiculously specific as it is. Like that wouldn't even be that weird in the next edition of the book. Jesse Bennett in the chat's on board. He says, "Don't threaten me with a good time."
I'm working up the release of liability contracts now.
But yeah, so get your free ticket on Eventbrite. Let us know that you're going to be there, and then come on down Thursday, May 26th, 7 p.m. at IHOP across the street, 1840 South Harbor Boulevard, Anaheim, for podcast, music, pancakes, prizes. It's just awesomeness. So come on down for that.
Get your ticket, pack your bags.
Come and join the IHOP celebration.
Yeah.
All right,
pancake post party.
Yeah. Hey. All right, let's plug some other stuff and get into some more Star Wars.
All right, if you're watching on YouTube, punch that subscribe button. Chewy. If not, we are on YouTube. We broadcast live at 6:30 p.m. Pacific's 9:30 p.m. Eastern every single week. And then you can watch the show afterwards by on demand on YouTube at any time that's convenient to you. You can support us by super chatting with us. These are all the ways that we're going to be able to buy as many pancakes for y'all as possible at IHOP.
The record-setting number of pancakes.
Yeah, is this super chats. Becoming a channel member helps a lot. Huge shout out to our fantastic members that we have already. And then patreon.com/theswu, getting our merch over there and are getting access to our pre-show exclusive content. Helps us out financially as well. And then finally going over to cultureslate.com/store and buying the merch from the other podcasts from our network also helps us out. Make sure you check out those shows, Star Wars Culture, Shadow Squadron, and Ion Cannon.
Speaking of Ion Cannon, I was on the most recent episode with our good buddy Star Raptor, and of course our other good buddy, the host of that show, Matt, and we had a great conversation about Phase 1 of the High Republic. We somehow managed to talk about, I'm going to say 12 books and I don't know, probably 50 comics in the course of just under 2.5 hours. So it was a great time.
In order for Matthew to win the pancake eating contest, he has to both describe the entire new canon while eating pancakes.
Yes.
Awesome. So check that out over on the Ion Cannon YouTube. For anybody that's listening, that's spelled EYEONCANONI, like a human eye or android eye or humanoid eye on canon. And you see it spelled if you're watching on YouTube. Just search for that. Make sure you follow us on social media at the SWU, and you can send listener feedback to swunderworld@gmail.com. And we actually have a specific thing we're looking for this week, which is questions about Star Wars Celebration. We're going to be doing a Celebration preview show next Thursday to our last expectations for the convention and any last minute advice that we have in anything. And so send us any questions you have, swunderworld@gmail.com. We should be able to see everything, but just in case there's a lot, put in the subject line SWCA, so we know right away that it's a celebration question. Any questions you have about advice for the convention, either if you're going or maybe some questions about how to follow certain things from afar if you're not, send us that to us, swunderworld@gmail.com. All right.
Well, one more thing I want to do before we dive into the news is I want to shout out one of our listeners. Listeners at Kajira Creations on Twitter. It's Creations with a K, because they're an artist and they like to do Star Wars art, and they like to do Star Wars art whilst listening to our podcast. And every so often, we say something so ridiculous, so absurd, that they have to draw it. And that's what happened this week. Kajira Creations tweeted, thanks again to the folks at the SWU for the latest podcast and their inspo for me to create more # Star Wars fan art. And for those of you that are watching, this is the picture that they created, which is the Inquisitors from ObiWan Kenobi playing Pokemon Go to hunt down Jedi.
That's so awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. So the Grand Inquisitor is saying, ugh, it's another one of these Padawans that survived. I want to catch me a master. The third sister, that's Moses Ingram's character, is saying, oh man, it's another Squirtle. I really wanted an Obi-Wan today. And the fifth brother is smashing his phone on the ground saying, oh, come on. I wanted a Kenobi. So you can see this for yourself at Kajira Creations. That's at KAJIRAKREATIONS at Kajira Creations. They do great stuff over there. That's who also created the Omega Good Soldiers Follow Orders art.
The one that still haunts all our dreams.
Yeah, which I loved what they did in season 1 of Bad Batch. I kind of think what we collectively came up with the guys from Shadow Squadron and Kajira Creations with the art. I kind of think that might have been a slightly cooler idea. As good as Bad Batch was. But anyways, Inquisitors playing Pokemon Go. See it on social media. It's tremendous. If you're watching the video, it's on screen. So if you're listening, you can come if you're listening, you can come just check this moment out about 15 minutes in, or 14 minutes in, or you can just head over to Twitter and see it for yourself. But couldn't not shout out such incredible work that was inspired by this show. All right, news time. And let's start with the Ahsoka series, which coincidentally started production this week. Lucasfilm revealed that the show has entered production. They did so with a very fun social media post featuring one of those like folding director's chairs on set that shows the logo of the series, and hanging from that chair is a very iconic cowboy hat.
I wonder whose it could be.
Yeah, belonging to one David, I'm not sure of his middle name, middle initial, Filoni. And also in the background, you can see there's some monitors and there's some stuff on the monitors. I don't know how long you all spent zoomed in on those trying to figure out what was there, but I spent longer than I care to admit. And I came away with no information about it. So Ahsoka's in production. How do we feel? What do you think? What are we hoping for and excited to see from this series?
Oh man, this is super exciting. I mean, at this point now, there's been like 2 backdoor pilots to this show, with Ahsoka showing up in season 2 of Mando and showing up in Book of Boba Fett. So they've definitely really primed us to be excited for this. And I think the thing that is most fascinating about this show is how it's really the season 5 of Star Wars Rebels, kind of, sort of. Like, so that was something that was going to happen, and then it was kind of shifted over to live action and shoehorned into the Ahsoka project that may or may not have been happening separately. So I think this show is excited on multiple fronts. It's excited as an extension of the Mandoverse, an extension of what we're getting in Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian, but it's also exciting as a much long anticipated continuation of the Star Wars Rebels storylines. So it's going to pin, I think, a lot of stuff together. It's going to add even more connections to the Dark Time and Clone Wars animation, and then the current post Return of the Jedi Mandoverse stuff. So it's going to connect Star Wars more together, and it has an opportunity to expand Star Wars to places that hasn't been before. Just looking at the logo and the marketing for this show, it's very reminiscent of that design for the World Between Worlds that we got in Star Wars Rebels. So there is this expectation that perhaps time travel and playing around with rules of how the universe works might be a function of this show. So I'm super excited for it. I think this shows very much kind of the future of what Star Wars is going to be going forward, and it's going to set a lot of precedents, I think, that are going to be kind of foundational for like the coming decade of Star Wars on Disney Plus.
Ben?
Yeah, it is interesting to kind of like, we're already here. Like if Ahsoka felt so far away for so long, and now it's like, oh, it's in production, like things. And then obviously leads us to like, well, maybe we're going to get some stuff it's sometime soon. Maybe we're Filoni's going to be at Celebration. He's going to be heavily involved in this. Maybe he'll bring some stuff with him. Maybe he'll bring some people with him to that, live action panel. So who knows? But just the fact that this thing's happening, and and just the whole, like, I feel like I know a lot's what's going to happen. Obviously, this is going to be a sequel to Rebels, but also we don't know a whole lot about what's going to happen in this show, and the fact that we've come all this way, just a reflection on like how far that character has come, how far Ahsoka Tano has come from literally 10 years ago being a punching bag for Star Wars fandom of, this is the new representation of why Star Wars sucks. That was what it was on the internet. That's what Ahsoka was. And now we have a show dedicated to her, and people couldn't be more excited. And I think we all knew, I think those of us who got it from the beginning knew that this was such a strong character that deserved this kind of treatment. And there was, this conversation like, could she be even translated to live action? I remember those conversations. I remember like, they can't do her in live action. It just wouldn't work. Now here we are. We've seen her multiple times in live action. She's getting her own show. So, yeah, very, very exciting.
Yeah, you've said it, Ben. I mean, it's always incredible to me when we see this stuff where Ahsoka is so front and center, because I remember so viscerally those early days of Ahsoka's existence where it felt like people were really against this character and rooting for her to fail, and to have seen it come so remarkably around and to do the full 180 like that, where now not only does Ahsoka get to lead a series, but it's a series that's created and executive produced and show run by Dave Filoni, who was there for her creation and really has shepherded this character through the years, ever since George created her and sort of handed her off to him. It's really remarkable, and when you go back, if you look back at 2008, 2009, 2010, like those days, those early days of Ahsoka, people, and you tried to convince people that she would be leading one of the biggest shows on one of the biggest streaming services, nobody would have believed you. They would have thought, what the hell is that whole series of words that you just threw together there? Streaming service, original content, Ahsoka Tano live action. People never would have believed you. And it's really remarkable. And it's just something that I'm kind of amazed that we'll get to see. And I'm really excited to eventually see how this plays out once it does. And yeah, Celebration is about it's about 2 weeks away now, and it wouldn't shock me if we got some sweet stills or a sweet poster or something to go along with perhaps some more casting announcements.
I remember the moment when all of this shifted. It was an episode of the Clone Wars called Brain Invaders. And Ahsoka is sitting in the mess hall of a ship with Bara Sophie, and they're eating this nondescript Star Wars food. We don't know. They're like cubes of random things. And her and Barris are kind of going back and forth about some philosophy behind the war and the Jedi Order. And that's the moment where some depth started being added to her character beyond just being kind of like this kid that Anakin was trying to take care of. And it was kind of from that moment forward when they really made her like a central important character arc in the Clone Wars, that basically we were kind of learning what was going on in the galaxy through her. And then she was changing. It was changing her. And then she was kind of transcending everything. When everybody else was getting wrapped up in the war, she was transcending it, and she got out. And so just absolutely brilliant writing from, the direction of George and Filoni down to the writers, individual writers of those episodes, because they took a character that was very much this character that was online for people, where some people loved her, some people hated her, some people loved to hate her, to it being like one of the best written Star Wars characters ever. And now here we are.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember there was somebody who was very prominent and still is very prominent in, film discussion stuff on YouTube. And I'm not going to call them out because there's no benefit in doing that. But I remember back in the sort of around 2011, they went on like this big long rant about how they hated Ahsoka and they think the character should have never been created, yada, yada, yada. And a lot of people were really defending this guy and agreeing with his opinion and saying, yeah, we agree. This character's awful. Then you fast forwarded to 2019, 2020, when the evolution had happened and people had come around on Ahsoka, and this same guy was still doing basically the same thing. And he went on another big long rant about how much he hated Ahsoka. And this time it was like polar opposite response. Everybody was like, what is this? What is this a lunatic talking about? This is a perfect character. And it's been wild to watch. And this this show, when it comes out, like we've said, is kind of the culmination of that journey. And likely won't be the culmination of the character in every sense, but in a lot of senses, I think it will be, which is both exciting and also, perhaps a little bit sad that, maybe we might actually see how Ahsoka's story comes to an end for real this time, because we've had a couple of false starts at that.
Ooh.
Right.
I feel after, Filoni pulled out of killing her off a few times, I feel like it just can't happen now. It's like even if she does die, there's just like no way to confirm that she really is.
People will just spend the rest of eternity coming up with reasons for why she's alive. And, all this world between world stuff that was introduced in Rebels and seems to be alluded to in all of the logos and stuff for this show will just factor into that. I'm sure that people will think that that's why they got to bring Ahsoka,
there's
Ahsoka
only
back. That's why they introduced it, right?
There's only one character in all of Star Wars that has ever had the hashtag "this character lives."
Yeah.
And that is Ahsoka. Hashtag Ahsoka lives was a thing for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And Filoni even had fun with it back at Celebration, right? Celebration 2017 at the Rebels panel. He came out on stage wearing a shirt that said "Ahsoka lives?" ? And then they did a screening either of the episode or of a trailer or something. And when the lights came back on, Filoni's shirt has changed to "Ahsoka lives!" !
Nice.
I see in the chat here, Mike is saying, hoping they find a way to include Ashley Eckstein if she's up for it. I do too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I understand the reasons for recasting the role, of course. But I've said this before, Ashley is such a huge part of why that character came to life and resonated with people the way she did. And even if Ashley can't play the character, it would be nice if she could be in the show in some sort of role, some kind of important cameo role where she could play some sort of mentor figure or something, something that she could give some advice to Ahsoka, or maybe somebody a character that Ahsoka saves who could thank Ahsoka or something. I hope there's a spot for Ashley in there.
That would be really cool. I mean, the way that I would envision her coming in is kind of in a similar way to Mark Hamill's role in the Disney Plus stuff, where if they do a flashback scene where Ahsoka has speaking lines in either this show or maybe even Kenobi, we could see that as well. That perhaps having her do the voice dubbing for those lines would make sense.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Because it was Ashley in Rise of Skywalker, right? It wasn't Rosario.
Yes.
Yeah.
So canonically, it's Ashley, Rosario, Ashley. Okay, that is canon.
But the thing
that's
is,
why we can go Alden Harrison. But
that world, that's true. But that world between world stuff is what kind of allows it to be a little funky there, because Ahsoka is one of those characters that may or may not be tied to time. And then, of course, you have all of that Mortis lore as well. You've got both World Between Worlds and Mortis that she's involved with.
Yeah. It wouldn't shock me if things played out this way, where Ahsoka winds up like retiring to Mortis or something akin to that. It also wouldn't shock me if that does happen, because that almost seems too obvious, and it feels like Filoni's not going to go for the obvious solution here. But Ahsoka sort of retiring to Mortis, where she doesn't have to be involved in the day-to-day of the galaxy, but whenever the new hero of the next generation needs a bit of wisdom, she's out there. She's out there. She can help. She'll have seen a lot, and she'll be able to throw in some advice when needed.
Now, Ashley, of course, learned Icelandic, well, at least an Icelandic accent to audition for Ahsoka. So might we be paying attention to the Icelandic dubs of this Disney Plus show to hear one Ashley Eckstein reprising her role.
If Ashley does pop up in Ahsoka, she should speak with that Icelandic accent.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
bring it all the way around back to where right back where we started from.
And then Dave will be like, "See, we had you learn that for a reason. That wasn't to throw you off."
Yeah, it wasn't just an idea that didn't work. We were saving it for another time.
We gave you 15 years to perfect this, and you show up sounding like you're from Norway.
Yeah, Filoni will be like, Filoni was like in the when he said to her, just do it in your regular voice. She's like, well, why did I learn that accent? He was like, well, it's a good accent for another time, and she'll bring it back. This is when she'll bring it back. At just the right moment. But so the Ahsoka show, I guess we can assume next year is when we'll see it actually premiere on Disney Plus.
Because Kenobi was filming around July, August of last year, I think.
Yeah. So I assume this might be a fall. This might take the spot that Andor is taking this year. Something like that. That could work. Yeah. That would be cool. All right. Well, we'll move off of that. Although, of course, we will continue to talk lots about Ahsoka as time goes on, as we get closer and closer to that series. But let's talk a little bit about the ObiWan Kenobi show that is just over 2 weeks away, because we got some new pictures from it. I believe these come from Empire Magazine, is where these bad boys come from.
Correct.
So. We'll start with this one. We got Obi-Wan on Tatooine, looking very desert rat-like. It's sort of it feels like every publication that gets some Kenobi pictures gets one of these, where Obi-Wan just it's in his sort of homeless desert, just living out his
That's
time
what
on
I
Tatooine.
look. That's what I look like going down to the laundromat with the only clothing I have left to get there every week.
It's amazing how well he's blending in, because I feel like if go to the alternate universe where Obi-Wan Kenobi isn't happening, like showing this picture completely out of context, you'd be like, wow, that's like a Tatooine tree. It looks a lot like Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it's it's just a testament to why he's still alive, and he's blending in, and he's wearing what everyone else is wearing. It's an interesting choice of costume design.
We've also got this one that is a sort of a better look at Obi-Wan's costume. If it looks like he's been photoshopped into that background, it's because he has. I had a weird nostalgic moment, because there's this version of this shot that's Obi-Wan just in his costume with his lightsaber out. What we're looking at has a desert Tatooine background. But there was a version of it that was floating around there that just had a gray background. And all of those prequel era promotional stills of Ewan, especially from the Revenge of the Sith era, just they're all still floating out there with these gray backgrounds. And you could have convinced me that that version of this picture was like a an unused picture from Revenge of the Sith. But this is like a proper good look at his costume in good lighting without a whole bunch of distractions. And my thought was, when I saw this, he looks like his action figure. That's what he looks like in this.
Yeah. Well, this is probably what they gave Hasbro when they made the action figure. Go make it look exactly like this.
Yeah, exactly. Tyler in the chat asks an interesting question. Why didn't he go clean shaven? Because everybody knows Obi-Wan with a beard from the prequel era, right? Like in Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. But I feel like if he went clean shaven, less people would recognize him. Like, how some people,
it's true.
They have a beard and then they shave it off, and you're like, oh my God, you're a different person. I feel like he would have been. He could have hid from Anakin a little bit better, from Vader and the Empire. They would have been They'd been like the top thing would have said has beard when when they're putting out the information.
Yeah, he really hasn't changed his hairstyle. He's got pretty much the same beard, and he's got his hair is just a little shaggier. There's a little bit of a mullet back there. He hasn't changed very much. He's going more for the space hobo look, I think.
I think it goes back to this kind of concept that the internet can't exist in Star Wars because of math and physics. So really, if he's on a planet like Tatooine, there's really no way to distribute his image to Tatooine unless you're a specific bounty hunter and you have like some type of chain code
You
thing
got one of those
going on.
pucks.
Yeah, unless you have one of those hockey pucks, there's no way to know what people look like in the Star Wars galaxy. I mean, that's why you have things like that exchange between General Grievous and Anakin about their expectations for each other's experiences being wrong. No one in Star Wars knows what each other looks like.
That's why we can have wanted posters still, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's the only way anybody would find out. They go down to your local saloon and there's all the wanted posters there. And say, wanted, dead or alive. And then everybody breaks into song. All right. And then the third image that we've got this week, also from Empire Magazine, a little bit of a stare down between a couple of Inquisitors. The fifth brother and the third sister staring each other down. Looks like the fifth brother is arguing something and the third sister doesn't exactly agree. But it's sort of wild to see it's sort of wild to see the fifth brother in live action. We've talked a lot has been made about the the Grand Inquisitor. It's just as sort of uncanny valley strange to see this dude, the fifth brother in there as well. And especially a shot like this where you can actually see his costume and it's like, oh yeah, wow, that's what he wore in Rebels. That's what he looked like.
It is crazy like that because it still feels like it's like he was like an antagonist in a whole season of Rebels. Like that's not obscure by any means, but it feels obscure to me. And the fact that they could have, props to them. They could have just come up with their own Inquisitors. We know there's a ton of Inquisitors out there from the comics or whatever else, and there's some new ones in this show. But they specifically went with some that were known, which I think is really cool. And we know they're gonna survive this, and all this stuff. But adds a little more continuity and just a really cool use of characters here.
Yeah, I like the way they handled the Inquisitors in this. Like, it's sort of like, well, they wanted to create their own. Sorry, there was just things nearly just went very badly here in the hockey game, but they didn't. They didn't. It's okay, still okay. It tied at 3-3. But
if any point he starts like screaming or crying, sounds like he's having a stroke, just know he's okay. He's okay.
Yeah. But the point I was making is, they obviously they want to create some of their own characters for this show, so that's what they do with their sort of main Inquisitor, with Moses Ingram's character, the third sister. But if you need an Inquisitor that's kind of an authority figure, all right, you have one that exists already. Why not use the Grand Inquisitor? So they did. They brought in the Grand Inquisitor, and then you need some other Inquisitors to fill out the rest of the roster. Well, yeah, create some more. Let the art department just have fun with it. And then, but also, there's some that already exists, and it would be a nice little nod to the fans that know that they exist to incorporate them. Like the fifth brother is kind of a good character to do that with, because he, even though, like you said, Ben, it was one of the main antagonists for a season of Rebels. He's still kind of a blank slate. We didn't learn a ton about him in that season, which is a fair criticism of season 2 of Rebels, I think. But so you can bring him in without having to worry about there being a ton of baggage with people need to know this about him or need to know that about him. He's a new character if you've never seen him before, but he's a familiar face if you have, and that's a good balance that they should aim to strike when they can.
And looking at it from the perspective of like we're seeing all these Inquisitors, I think fifth brother and the Grand Inquisitor, we know they're true believers. We know their fates. We know that they're not going to turn. I think the whole thing with Reva. The fact that we know her name is Reva is something very, very interesting. The fact that she has a designation as an Inquisitor, but also she has a real name. I think that's going to speak to her past, probably as a Jedi. Maybe Obi-Wan knows her, and maybe even tries to get through to her, similarly to what we think might happen with Anakin. Just that whole thing I think is very interesting. Something I never really got a chance to talk about last week with the trailer, but like there's something really interesting going on, and Moses Ingram, rightfully so, is front and center with all the press and stuff like that's been happening this week, and I think she's going to be a lot larger player than we are anticipating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, who knows at what point Vader will appear in the series. I suspect it's not going to be in episode 1. And Vader may not become a major factor in the series until the back half, or it's only 6 episodes, so episode 3 or beyond, and so you need someone to be a credible threat through the first part of the episode that could lure Obi-Wan out, and then put him into a place where he needs to fight Vader, and so I feel like Reva, the third sister, I feel like she's got to be a strong, intimidating villain to fulfill that role, and might wind up having to, carry the dark side, so to speak, through the first couple of episodes until it's time to, hand that baton or hand that lightsaber off to the big guy, the big scary guy with his heavy breathing and his scary mask and all that stuff.
He shows up in the last 5 minutes.
Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something? So those are the main pictures from the event. But Ben, you mentioned that there's some press events going on. They've been doing kind of a European tour, and we've seen some pictures from that. It seems to be Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Moses Ingram, and Deborah Chow making the rounds, and they've been apparently in London and in Berlin, I want to say. Out there promoting this show, and we're starting to get little snippets of interviews with them, and there was a great moment. We don't have the video or the audio of it, but there's this great moment from one of the press junkets where they're all sort of standing there, or Hayden, Moses, and Ewan are standing there, and like the journalists are shouting questions at them, and they ask Hayden and Ewan about the reaction to the prequels, and they and Ewan just starts going on about how it was weird that they to see them be so negatively received at the time, and how that was such a strange experience for them given how hard they worked on those movies, but it's been so nice to then have people who grew up with them coming up to them now saying, oh, we love those movies. The critics at the time were wrong. They're awesome. We love them. And then Hayden kind of, and then he says something to Hayden like, and I've rewatched them all, and Revenge of the Sith is a really, really good movie. and Hayden's like, they're all really good, and Ewan agrees.
Just to add an anecdote from my life, I was working a job helping someone set up a picnic on the weekend. Probably one of the most random jobs I've ever worked in my life. And she was telling me about how I'm so glad this is in a park, because setting up a picnic on the beach is hell. And then I'm like, oh, you're like Anakin in Star Wars. You hate sand. She's like, yeah, exactly like that. I really like those movies. Those movies are great. Yeah. I dressed up as Padme when I was a kid. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Yes. And well, and Ewan goes on to say in this clip I was talking about, the number of times people have come up to him asking him to say, he has the high ground to them. You could get paid $1 for every time it happened. He'd be very rich. So I assume we'll see some more press stops along the way. Probably a couple more, maybe another European stop before probably some big event in the U.S. somewhere, and all of it presumably culminating on Thursday morning at Star Wars Celebration for the showcase panel, where they'll showcase something from the show. Who knows what it'll be, and how much of it. A case, yeah. They'll bring out like a phone case and they'll be like, see, we're here to show you this case. That's what this panel is. Imagine if that happened. The showcase panel is just them showing off different phone cases. It's actually a phone case collecting panel.
Yo.
And it's not Kathleen Kennedy and Deborah Chow and Ewan McGregor and all those people. It's just like people from phone case companies going, and then we have this Luke Skywalker one. And you know what, guys? We're big fans of Star Wars too. And just really making the
Kathleen Kennedy just walks out. He's like, "Hey guys, you ready for ObiWan Kenobi? You want to see, Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen? They're not here, sorry.
Yeah.
But here's the
everybody.
limited edition ObiWan Kenobi phone case. You can get it. It's out in the Celebration store right now."
Hello, everybody. My name is Joe, and I'm from Otterbox.
I first saw Star Wars back in 1977, and it was a life-changing experience for me. And ever since then, I remember having the Kenner action figures, all 37 of them, or however many there were. Chris, I think we've been to too many Comic-Con panels. I feel like...
Oh man.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So the press tour is going on. I'm sure we'll have lots more fun with that, and who knows what other tidbits and snippets we'll see in the coming weeks as we get ever closer to the show premiering. Hayden Christensen, well, speaking of him, he was interviewed recently by Total Film, and he was asked about the lightsaber duels and the fighting style of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and how they compare to the prequels versus, say, the original trilogy. And this is what Hayden said. He said, we're more in line with the prequels than we are with how the fights are in the original trilogy. These characters have aged, but not that much yet. He goes on to say, we're adding more connective tissue so that it has to line up. That was something that I was cognizant of even when we were doing the prequels, and knowing that there's someone else that's played this character before me and after me, and we have to find something that feels right. I spent a lot of time watching all of the Star Wars stuff I could, from the original films to the animated shows, Clone Wars, Rebels, and all of that. So, prequel style fights back for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. I mean, we basically got that in the sequels too. Like, maybe they tweaked it a little bit, but it was those were pretty acrobatic fights.
Yeah,
especially
they were good. I've seen the prequel fight so many more times.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. I know them a lot better than the sequel ones, and I'm more kind of nostalgic towards the prequel ones and the music behind them and all that stuff. Yeah, that's a curious question to ask. I feel like there's only one way to answer it.
Well, I think with lightsaber choreography, I think there was a general progression from A New Hope to Return of the Jedi, and then from Phantom Menace up to Revenge of the Sith, of George just kept wanting to top himself, basically, with the choreography and how crazy it could be, culminating in, Battle of the Heroes, which is just, looking back, it's amazing. It's seeing what Ewan and Hayden did is amazing. What Nick Gillard was able to pull off was just astounding, but also it's freaking ball. It's just all over the place, and there's so much going on, and how fast they are. And you get to the sequels, and I think it's more kind of stepping off the gas a little bit and just like, okay, let's get things. I think actually sequels probably don't get enough credit for like striking a balance with like more realism, more like, because like if you watch, especially like that fight in like, Last Jedi, it's like Rey's, she's powerful, but she's not that powerful. She's kind of getting her ass kicked. And then you have Kylo, who's just like mowing through people because he's experienced at this. There's everything's tailored to the characters. I think I would actually expect more, sequel era type stuff in this show, because it'll be them, Ben Kenobi and Vader kind of slowing down a little bit. But I like Hayden is like, we're old, we're not that old. We're not that old yet, So I love that,
look at what Christopher Lee did at age 80 something in the prequel.
Look at what Yoda did at age 850 or something.
Yeah. Come on.
So that, in the Force, if you have the Force, the age is just a number. So who knows what they're going to be up to. But it's really going to be interesting to see like what Vader does. We've never seen like the closest we've got to like an acrobatic Vader is like, Rogue One. Which is not that acrobatic, but he's just faster and whatever else. And then you have, I guess what you have in Rebels, but he's very grounded in that. Even that he does maybe a couple flips or whatever else. But this is going to be like having Anakin, our Anakin in that suit, feasibly, how they're going to work that out and how Vader's going to behave, being that he's not a New Hope Vader. He's not Revenge of the Sith either. He's kind of in between.
Yeah, it'll be real cool to see. We keep sort of circling back to this every now and again. How it's weird that the way the show is marketed is around this fight. It's the rematch of the century, yada yada yada. And then for us, it's like there's this whole other thing. There's this whole other story that we're focused on. And then every now and again, it's like, oh yeah, there's gonna be a fight. There's gonna be a war in the stars. Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating to see, because I remember when they were making Rogue One, right? Like they said, we want to show a really sort of scary, modern, up-to-date Vader, but we also don't want to have him do anything that we don't think he could have done in the original trilogy. And you look through that hallway scene, it's a lot of swinging the lightsaber around very, very fast and, lifting people with the Force and that sort of thing. And it's certainly a, up-to-date modern movie sequence, but it's not, he doesn't flip over. He doesn't spin around. It's not the fights in the prequels, especially Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith, are almost, they're almost like choreographed like dances, almost. Like they're almost more a form of dance than a form of fighting.
They are.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's a reason why choreography refers to both fighting and dancing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Vader is a character that, I think especially in the original trilogy is set up to be like, he doesn't need the acrobatics. He doesn't need to be flashy. He's just there. He can freaking kill you with his mind. He could just stand there and just choke you out and not lift a finger. Like that's Darth Vader. So he doesn't need all of that, but he's not going to be the Vader of the original trilogy. He's going to be somewhere in between what we saw in the prequels and somewhere between the Anakin that we saw and the Vader we see in the original trilogy. So like, what is that? And is this part of him kind of starting to kind of get a handle on his power? And, that's going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. We look back on the Maul Obi-Wan duel from Rebels, right? I don't know if we fully appreciated at the time kind of the tightrope balance, the tightrope walk that show had to do with that sequence, because that is so close to A New Hope. That is old Ben Kenobi there. That is somebody who fights the way he fights on the Death Star hallway versus Maul, who still very much fights the way he fights in Phantom Menace.
Right.
And so you have to put these two characters up against each other that are really nothing like each other. And in a sense, I don't know if you could have done anything other than what they did. With the sort of the 1-2 done sort of samurai version of the fight. I don't know if they could have done anything else.
Yeah, I think they were pretty boxed in regards to like, and also I think that fight kind of informs what I think that's what Filoni was trying to do, is just like inform why is that A New Hope fight so slow? Why is that? Why is it so like just like I think you could come down and maybe. I don't know, we'll see a kind of a miniature version of that in this show, where it's just like they start really acrobatic, but then they kind of learn each other's moves, and they're like, I can't be crazy I gotta have these surgical strikes to do some damage, because otherwise, and that's why it kind of slows down a little bit.
Yeah, that was something I always really liked about about the lore of the Revenge of the Sith, of the Battle of the Heroes, is that it's so evenly matched because Anakin and Obi-Wan know each other better than anybody else. And that's they always trained together. And they knew each other's moves. They knew what each other would do, and so they were able to prevent the other one from doing anything. And it sort of culminates in that moment where they're swinging their lightsabers at each other and they never hit, and then they do the force push at each other.
That was one of the things that struck me the most about the novelization, was talking about that, how it's like this was so trippy for both of them because it's like they've sparred so many times, they know everything that each other's gonna do. There's really no way for one to beat the other, and it's really fascinating.
Yeah, so we'll get the rematch of the century. Probably not in 2 weeks, although you never know. You never know. Probably more
it's the
like,
first scene.
Yeah, just opens with that. They're like,
well,
we
you're probably wondering how I ended up here.
record scratch freeze frame. Hello there. You're probably wondering how I ended up here.
Let's re-edit the show, Deborah.
Deborah, get on that, Deb. You got this.
Yeah, it's like slow motion, Kenobi getting slammed through a wall, and he's just like lands. He's just like, oh my, hello there.
And then the second episode starts the same way, but it freeze frames with Vader. And he's like, you're probably wondering how I got here. Well, it all began 30 years ago on Tatooine when I won a pod race.
The end of it's like, oh, surprise, directed by Quentin Tarantino.
It's Obi-Wan talking to Luke. And this is how I met your mother.
Oh, goodness. All right, what else we got for this week? It's intermission between the third period and overtime. So I'm here. I'm focused.
Get moving.
Let's go. We got to hit these things. Michael Waldron. Heard of him? He's got a big movie out in theaters these days called Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. He also wrote a little show called Loki. And he's working on a new project with one of the people that he works with a lot, Mr. Kevin Feige. But for once, it's not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe unless Doctor Strange 2 goes to some really weird places with the multiverse.
Ooh, I wouldn't put it past them. I would not put it past them.
I wouldn't put it past them, but I also really don't want them to do it.
I mean, they just keep merging things together.
I
Smash.
I know, but some things need to be kept separate.
The year 2032, sacrosancticity is gone, and yep, Star Wars is now Marvel. Marvel is now Star Wars. Let's go.
Something like that. But Michael Waldron, he was talking to Variety about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and of course, they asked him about the Kevin Feige produced Star Wars film, and I just noticed in both our notes and the banner at the bottom of the stage, bottom of the screen, there's no space between Star and Wars.
Star Wars.
Oops. Well, it's like every year when we go to San Diego Comic-Con, my badge says Dominic Jones, the Star Wars Underworld. There's no space between Star and Wars as far as San Diego Comic-Con is concerned. But anyways, the point of the story is Michael Waldron said this about the Kevin Feige produced Star Wars film. We're finally into it in earnest. I mean, I'm writing away. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying having the freedom on that to do something that's not necessarily a sequel or anything. It maybe has a little bit less of it just doesn't have a bunch of TV shows and movies that you're servicing on top of it the way I did with Doctor Strange. So it's nice. It feels like a different exercise. It says something about Marvel that, basically writing a movie how movies were written for so long, which is not having to worry about, all the other media that exists is now considered a new exercise for a Marvel writer. But I don't know. We've talked a little bit about Michael Waldron in the past because I think he's been rumored. But how do you guys feel about him being the guy to write the thing for Kevin Feige?
I like everything that he's done that I've seen. I'm gonna look up what else that he's done outside of the Marvel stuff. But I thought the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was great, and I thought Loki was great, and I guess he's done some writing for Rick and Morty, or really he's a producer for Rick and Morty. I
I
guess.
believe he worked with Rick and Morty sometimes, because I think that's where some of the multiverse stuff
Makes sense.
madness came from.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of ties together, and you watch this stuff like, wow, okay, yeah, I get it. I can get the connection.
Like, I see it.
Oh yeah, so he came up with I guess with Dan Harmon, because he also worked as production staff and writing assistant on Community.
Okay.
So that makes sense. So you very much expect, what is it called, the story circle?
Yeah.
Story.
Yeah.
That
Harmon's
thing.
Story Circle, yeah.
Yeah, that might be a part of this.
So what we
but,
can
yeah.
expect is a Community, Rick and Morty, Marvel, and Star Wars crossover at some
Yeah.
point.
Yes.
Yeah. That would be, why not, right? Just do it all in the multiverse of Madness 3. But yeah, I'm interested to see. I like what he says in this quote about, it doesn't have to tie in with all the TV shows. It doesn't have to be. I like that that Feige is coming over to Star Wars not to Marvelify Star Wars. I like that he's coming over just to, make something good, make something interesting, make something cool, and I think that's really exciting. And would I like to see some sort of tie-in between, The Mandalorian and some sort of cinematic tie-in with The Mandalorian? Sure, but I'd like that to kind of be its own thing. Like we've speculated in the past, like what if they did a movie to conclude the Mandoverse rather than a season of television on Disney Plus, and I think that could be really cool. But I also want to see stuff like Rogue Squadron and presumably this that are, as standalone as you can be when you exist within a shared universe like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I just saw Multiverse of Madness. I thought it was, have my issues with it, but I think overall I enjoyed it. And it ties in with a lot of stuff. Obviously, it's culminating with a lot of stuff, and I really enjoyed Loki. I think it's one of the best Marvel shows they've done, and one of the best written shows that they've done. But I think one of my favorites most recently was Moon Knight, and I know he doesn't have anything to do with that, but the idea of not connecting everything when you're doing it in a shared universe, you don't necessarily have to. And Moon Knight did that. Moon Knight, without spoilers, like almost no connection to the MCU. It's just kind of doing its own thing. Obviously, it is in the MCU. There are connections, but they're very, very minute. And I like that. I like the restraint. I always appreciated, back in the day, Guardians of the Galaxy was in this up and coming Marvel Cinematic Universe. Oh, but it's not really connected. It's just kind of its own thing. It's out there doing its own thing. Obviously, it did connect eventually. But I think connections are great, but I think they need to be held in moderation, and I think doing it in ways that are tasteful, and sometimes not doing them at all and just kind of holding back. Very curious to know, like, what actually is this guy working on? What kind of story is this? What kind of movie is this? Is it another standalone film? Is it something else? Is it episode 10? It's just not connected to anything. Like, what is this? I'm curious.
I think Star Wars Visions was so well received. I think having some movies, perhaps Waititi's movie and Feige's movie, along those veins of being kind of like baseline Star Wars, but not really inside the Star Wars storyline, would be very fascinating.
Yeah. I doing something that's like Star Wars to its core, and that picks up on the themes and that sort of thing of the franchise would be really cool, and might be what's needed almost. Mando is doing so much interconnected stuff. The sequels were very deeply tied in with the original trilogy. So as were Solo and Rogue One, quite frankly. That maybe getting away from having to worry about we're dealing with legacy characters, or we're dealing with even legacy situations, and just doing something that's like what does Star Wars look like? What is Star Wars? Let's ask that question, and let's try and answer it not with Luke Skywalker or ObiWan Kenobi or Rey or anybody like that. Let's do it with a new character, or with a crew of new characters. Could be real exciting.
Yeah.
I can't.
Right. Next story. Who wants to read it?
I think I can do. Why is it not in the same order in the notes anymore? Hold on.
No, it's in order. It hasn't changed. It's the Fallen Order sequel. That's the next thing.
Oh, I missed that. Shoot, I didn't put that into the. No, wasn't there a Bryce Dallas Howard thing somewhere?
That's later. We'll get to that later.
Who changed the order?
I took it out.
That's
my fault.
We're saving that for next week.
Okay, I did not know that when I was setting this
somebody
up.
Wasn't listening.
No. Okay. All right. So, anyway, sorry, we'll talk about Bryce Dallas Howard next week. But this week we have a title.
Here's why we're saving the Bryce Dallas Howard thing. Because there's a clip that goes with it, and I think we should see it in proper context. And we didn't have time to get the clip this week. That's why we're saving it for next time.
That would have gone very smooth if not for all that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the sequel, has a title: Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
I think this maybe qualifies as a rumor because this is Bestman Bulletin, and they have an insider.
It's Bestman Bulletin reporting on something that one of the top gaming reporters, a fellow by the name of Jeff Grubb, reported.
Yeah.
So coming from some reliable sources, but
yeah,
still.
to be fair to Bestman Bulletin, they're corroborating it. So, that is two sources on it. So Jedi Survivor. What do you think? You guys gotta help me out. You gotta help me out here.
I'm trying to read off the information, and you're just saying everything I would be saying. So.
Yeah. Okay. Give us your thoughts. Go. Give us your thoughts. Go.
Oh man.
Sounds good to me. Next.
Thank you. Next. No. This is cool. I think it really doesn't mean anything. Really. The title, like it doesn't really. I don't think it really tells us much about what this is. Because I mean, at this point, you would just assume that any character that is a hero that exists in the dark times would be a survivor. So I don't think there's anything that I really can infer from this title that about what this game is going to be about. Really, what I want to know is just, is this very much a literal sequel where it's going to continue following the story of Cal Kestis and any of the characters that survived that game, Survivor, or is it, is this going to be kind of more of a spiritual sequel, like a similar type of game, but about like different characters that might be in a different spot in the timeline? I don't know if that question's been answered yet.
Well, yeah. I kept hearing, I don't know if it was officially or unofficially or just heard some discourse, but it was the idea was floated of like, well, maybe the next game won't necessarily be about Cal Kestis.
Yeah.
It'll be about maybe another character, which I think would be cool. I think if you diversify, they keep calling this the Star Wars Jedi franchise. They're obviously wanting to expand this, obviously after the popularity of the first game, and who can blame them? But I find myself doubting the idea of a spiritual sequel and a literal sequel when it comes to when you look at the popularity of that game, of that story, and of that character, Cal Kestis, and where they leave it off. I think there's plenty more story there, obviously, and Star Wars Jedi Survivor, that sounds like Cal Kestis. He did survive. He met Darth Vader. He survived it. So kind of describes him to a T. So I feel like this is kind of the true sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. And where he maybe Cal Kestis or maybe someone else. It could be another character kind of comes in and is kind of with Cal. I don't know, but I think just that whole group of characters, I think, giving them something else would be great. I think it's a solid title. I think it'd be interesting to see like how they handle all this going forward.
Yeah, it's an evocative title, but so was Jedi Fallen Order, and I agree with you, Chris. It's hard to infer too much from this, because especially considering Jedi Fallen Order could have very easily been called Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It's such a similar name. On the question of is it a spiritual sequel or a literal sequel? I'm wondering that as well, because they've been so cautious with how they've described this game. It's not Jedi Fallen Order 2. It's not the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. It's, as you said, Ben, the next installment in the Star Wars Jedi franchise. And it'll be curious to see what that looks like. I suspect, given the popularity of Cal Kestis, and that is a character that has a very dedicated fan base.
Yeah.
He'll have a role in this. Will he be the main character? I don't know. It's an interesting question. And the other question that sort of goes with it, one situation that could occur is, Cal and another character are both the playable characters. Because correct me, was Cal the only playable character in Fallen Order? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, pretty much. I think I can't remember if you switched with his droid sometimes.
Okay,
I can't remember.
I'm wondering, like, if you do a sequel that's Star Wars Jedi Survivor, that's not specifically the Cal Kestis story part 2, then maybe you do something where it's Cal and somebody else on an adventure together, and in that second adventure, you flip between the two characters, and you play part of the time as Cal and part of the time as somebody else, and maybe that's one way of differentiating it from the first one.
And this is a video game. We're not just talking about advancing the story and evolving it. We're talking about evolving the gameplay. And I think it could be interesting to see. I don't know, maybe some kind of GTA type thing where it's like you have two different characters and there's kind of a co-op there. Not saying it'll be 2-player, but you can have at the same time kind of swap back and forth, or like you're saying, like even have two different characters at different times. So I think anything along those lines, I think they're gonna want to. I think people are gonna want to see an evolution of that, not just the story, but the gameplay and doing different things, whatever.
All that stuff, yeah. Joel with this super chat, I'm not sure. I must have missed something because I'm not sure what this means. Survive.
I think he's talking about surviving. What could Cal be surviving? The unknown regions, Exegol. Okay. It could be. At least that's what I assume Joel's talking about. And I think that could be interesting. We're in the dark times, but could Cal's story start to catch up with the things? And other people are talking about time skips. How far in the future could this be, and how will it interface with the films? Gonna be interesting.
Yeah. All of these stories have the potential to take us to places that we're not expecting. Jesse throws out the possibility. Could we see a little bit of a time jump between the two games? That's always a possibility in Star Wars. Star Wars has set the precedent for long time skips in between their installments, so that's certainly possible as well.
I think for me, there's a couple things that I'm looking at. One is just the specific choice to use Cam Monaghan as the actor for Cal Kestis.
Sure.
Because a lot of times the people that are chosen to either do the voiceover or the motion capture for video game characters aren't big television or film actors. They're people who more specialize in voice acting or specialize in motion capture. So to choose him, I've always thought was a very interesting choice, with him being such an accomplished actor on TV. And so that's always made me think that they really want to develop his character into a cross-platform character that might show up, say, in a live-action movie or TV show. And Fallen Order did very, very well. It sold faster than Battlefront, but I think Battlefront ended up with more copies sold overall from the research that I was just doing. But
and it wound, and I think it's safe to say it was better received too.
And it was much more better received, than either of the Battlefront games. So that's obviously why we're getting a sequel. So I would lean on the side of Cal being in it, just because of that idea of developing that character further, so that we potentially could see him in other media. That's the reason. The existence of, if it was anyone other than Cam, I'd be like, yeah, they probably are going to have a new character for this. But because it is Cam, I feel like that's kind of too big a thing not to have, say, a multi-game contract with him, for example. Like if you're someone like Cam Monahan, you're probably going to be signing an option for a sequel if you're doing a video game, would be my assumption. So I feel like we're going to see him either, and if we don't see him in this game, I feel like we're going to see him come out with some other type of platform thing that he's going to be related to in the next 5 years.
Yeah. It's something I've noticed more and more, that frequently the people that they cast now to play characters in live action or in animation or in video games could theoretically make the jump to live action. We could have more Katie Sackhoff, Bo-Katan's situations that out there rather than the Ahsoka situation where they cast someone to do the voice who wasn't really what they were looking for to play the character on screen.
Pre-Mando season 3, Cameron Monaghan as Cal Kestis was a more viable option than Luke Skywalker, in my opinion, to show up. So
yeah, well, there was a lot of speculation going into season 2 of The Mandalorian of who could a Jedi be that could show up in this show, and there people would say Luke Skywalker as a dream choice, a dream situation, but nobody truly believed it would happen. So there were a lot of other options being thrown out there. One was Ezra Bridger, and the other one that was very popular was Cal Kestis. And I think it was due in large part to exactly what you were saying, Chris, that it's Cameron Monaghan playing the character. This is a dude who acts in television primarily rather than in video games, at least as far as I know. Another super chat here from Joel. I'm still convinced that Fallen Order took a lot of its lore and story from early drafts of the Kenobi theory. That's a Kenobi movie. That's my conspiracy theory.
Interesting.
Maybe. I mean, we'll see when Kenobi comes out. We'll see if there are what similarities exist between the two. Hannah going even further, predicting 4,000, saying she has a 4,000% feeling that Cal will be in Kenobi. Sure, why not? I can see that. They love, Rupert Friend was teasing cameos not too long ago. I don't see why not.
Why not. That really does make sense. I'm gonna be shocked if in the next 5 years he's not in something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be really shocked.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of Rupert Friend, you know where he's gonna be in 2 weeks? Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
Him and Tamora Morrison are the latest guests that have been confirmed for Celebration 2022. I feel like we knew. I feel like Tem was already announced, but then I saw people sharing around that he was announced again this week.
It was officially announced as of Friday, I think, last week.
Okay, maybe it was just so long between then and now that.
I mean, it felt like a lock after everything. Tim Morrison is so hot right now. After Book of Boba Fett,
It's that hot tub.
Yeah, you got to cool down in that hot tub. So it just felt like, hey, he's got to be there, but nothing official till now.
Yeah. So he'll be there. Rupert Friend will be there. That's cool. They'll be signing. So if you want to make some fine additions to your autograph collection, they will be there. Also announced this week, the Star Wars Celebration live stream will be back for this celebration, as it should be. They'll have a lot of hosts that are that are going to be there, including the usual suspects like Anthony Carboni and Andy Gutierrez, and Kristen Baver and Christina Ariel. I'm trying to do this all from memory, but I know there's at least one or two people I'm missing. Jordan Hembrow and Hector Navarro as well will also be hosting as well. This is great for everybody that can't be at Celebration. I know we spend a lot of time talking about the people that will be there, but we know that, given the entire population of the Earth and the number of Star Wars fans that exist, the 60,000 that will be at Celebration, while that's a lot of people, is still a fraction of the number of people that wish they could be there. So this live stream is a great way of bringing the convention to the people who will be who can't be there. So they'll stream some panels, and they'll have their celebration stage or celebration live stage on the show floor where there'll be, I'm sure, some interviews and some cool interactive stuff with the audience that is there. And that's where, last week or 2 weeks ago, I was lamenting the fact that not many of the celebrities that show up do Q&As anymore. That's where you'll wind up seeing them most likely answering some questions is on that stage, because they'll stop by for 2 minutes or 10 minutes. Andy and Anthony and all these other people will ask them a couple of questions about what they're doing. They'll throw some T-shirts out into the crowd, and then they'll go back to their table and sign some more autographs for the people that want autographs. So that's very, very good news that this is continuing, because this is something that I think is important. Is an important service for Star Wars fans who can't be there.
Yeah, it's funny how it's great for people that can't make it, but as someone who is going there, I'm always there's always so much stuff I miss because I just walk by the stage and there's a person up there, and I never get around to actually rewatching the live stream, so I just miss it all.
Yeah.
So, really, I mean, part of me was just a little bit afraid they might not do it and or change policy for some reason. I'm glad that's not the case, that this is a crucial part of the experience, I think, for some people, because before I got to go to Celebration, this was how I experienced Celebration.
Yeah, I mean, it used to just be an extension of the Star Wars show that was on YouTube every week, but ever since that's gone off the air, so to speak, it's been a little less certain that this would be back. Although, I felt pretty confident that they would bring it back, but they don't have the same infrastructure up and running that they did in 2019 or 2017 when they were doing this in the past with the Star Wars show and with Andy and Anthony being on the payroll every week, so to speak. Also going on with Celebration news, this is something that we don't really have the information about it just yet, but the panel lottery system was announced this week. And it went live this morning. But it didn't actually go live. It was supposed to, but didn't.
Really? So the panel lottery, I believe, is live. It's the exclusives, the merchandise exclusives that got held back.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I've read a really busy day, and I read a few tweets, and I'm acting like I know this stuff, but I could be wrong here. But I'm pretty sure that I need to actually check the Star Wars Celebration site.
Yeah, because there was
something happened that wasn't quite ready.
Yeah, something wasn't fully ready for the panel or for the thing to go live. Virtual panel and exhibitor shopping selection update. They've both been delayed.
Oh, okay.
They've both been delayed, so it's not up and running yet. But basically, the virtual panel selection, it's a lottery system for the big panels, for the first panel of every day on the main stages, and it basically eliminates the need to camp out overnight, which is a good thing, because as much fun as those overnight lines were, you're very, very tired the next day. And it took for as much as it added to the experience, it did also take something away from it as well, because you spent a lot of your time at Celebration thinking about your pillow, thinking about when you could go to bed, as opposed to thinking about Star Wars, which is what you want to be thinking about when you're at Celebration.
But long story short, with these panel lotteries, I know a lot of questions that, and we're going to try to answer some of your questions next week. But I think this, I don't know if they're going to extend like the delay, the date, the deadline for the panel on the opposite ends. But basically, you don't have to be the first one there. It's a lottery. Just it'll have a week up to do it. All you have to do is have your email address to log into it. You don't have to have your badges. So those of you who are out of the country that aren't here, that don't have your badges, they're waiting to get them at will call, you can still participate. A lot of people have been like, can I get in this? And I'm like, okay, just calm down, because there's been a lot of miscommunication, a lot of unknowns.
I don't understand why they can't explain this simply, because I remember we had this same problem in 2019 where it was like they were supposed to, they announced this, they're doing this, and then nobody could understand what it was that you had to do. And I remember thinking at the time, well, it's the first go around, we'll give them a pass. This is something they're trying out. This is something new. Whereas this time it's like, guys, you've had so long to prepare this. Why did it take until now to do it? And why does the announcement of it look just as confusing as the one did 3 years ago? Yeah. It just seems odd. But basically, like Ben said, you put in your email address. You might need. Do you need your badge number, which gets sent to you in your email?
Okay, so according to them, no, you don't need your badge or anything. It's just your email address that you ordered your badges, your tickets with.
Wonderful.
To get in. So basically that'll somehow match up. I'm again sounding like an expert. I have no idea. But like, I'm going off of like, I've studied this stuff because of people like coming to me going like, what's going on? What's happening? I don't know how my badges. And I'm like, okay, calm down. So I read through this, and that's basically what their whole thing is. Badge activation actually is live now. Okay, so if you have your badge, you can activate it. I don't know what that means. They have the lightning lane thing, which is also kind of confusing and not very well explained on the website. So if you're confused, you're not the only one.
Yeah, it's bizarre that they. I don't, like I said, I don't understand why they can't make these things clearer. And you should be able to explain it much more simply, or it just means the system is too complicated and we need a simpler system. Again, I'm glad this exists because I don't want to do the overnight lines again. Those became a chore as the celebrations went on. So this is the better way to do it. This is the way. But it adds to the stress trying to sort this out the week beforehand.
You're probably sitting at home thinking like, oh, why can't I just go back to the old way? Just stay in line. Trust me. You do not want to go back to the old way. Trust me. Just trust us when we say this is better.
Yeah, this is better. This is better ultimately. So hopefully we'll get some more clear information about this next week. So make sure you're following us on social media at the SWU pretty much everywhere, and that way we'll be able to, we'll as we learn what's going on, we'll share that information and hopefully we'll be able to get those answers out there, and we'll all be, we got to do the same thing. We got to enter ourselves into these lotteries so that we can know what panels we're going to, because we want to go to some good panels, some big panels, some cool panels when once this thing kicks off. And
we have to go to that phone case panel. I mean, that's what it's.
But also remember, it's a lottery. You have to in your brain go, think of the panel that I most want to go to. Now think about not getting into that panel. You have to consider the circumstances here, because you're not going to get everything. And your friend, you're not going to get any panels. You're going to get like one panel. Your friend's going to get like 10 panels. You're going to get like them all. And you're going to hate your friend, but that's the lottery.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the case. That is the case. So I think that's about all we've got for this week. we got a couple things that we're saving for next week, and of course next week we will get into, we'll share some of our
show.
Yeah. We'll share some of our experiences, and we'll let you, we'll get the. Sorry, I'm sad.
I saw it right before you. I had it up on my other screen, and I saw it over there first. And I was like, "Oh!" And then I looked over, and you had changed the score on your end.
Yeah. So we'll have good things to talk about next week with the celebration stuff, because between the three of us, we've got got to have close to 15, 20 celebrations between the three of us.
Let's see. So I've got Celebration 6, and then I've got one in Anaheim, another one in Orlando, Chicago, and London. I think I have 5.
5. Ben, how many have you been to?
I was counting the other day, and I was talking to Jesse, and I miscounted. I think I said I've been to 4, but then I'm like, wait, no, that's not possible. I've been to 2015. I missed 2016. Went to 2017. There wasn't anything in 2018, and then 2019.
Yeah.
So that was it. And then there hasn't been anything since. So so three full on
5, and you should have 7, right? Dominic?
Me? Yeah, I got 2010, 2012, 2013, 2015, 16, 17, 19. Yeah, 7.
Yeah.
So this will be number 8 for me. Yeah.
So we've got 4. Is that 14 total? I think. Wait, no.
15, because Ben's
15
done
total.
3.
Yep. So we've got 15 between us. Yep.
Yeah. There we go. There it is. So we've got a lot of experience, and we will share the things we've learned the easy way, and the things we've learned the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
Shoes. If you're thinking about buying new shoes for this convention, buy them now. Buy them yesterday, and spend the next 2 weeks breaking them in. Do not buy them 2 days before the con, and make sure you buy running shoes, sneakers, trainers, basketball shoes, whatever you people call them.
Living for 5 days off of Slim Jims is great for your wallet, but really bad for your immune system.
Yeah. We'll have some more great advice like that.
Words of wisdom
for next week when we get you completely set for Star Wars Celebration. I nearly said Chicago.
Anaheim,
Orlando,
Anaheim,
Lando, done. Essen.
Anaheim.
Excel or Orange County.
Good.
At least
stuff.
2 of them are in Orange County.
Yeah, that keeps it simple. Keeps it real simple. All right, with that, we can begin to wrap things up for this week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you follow us on social media at the SWU. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and leave us a review if you are listening on your favorite podcast apps. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting tonight.
It was my pleasure, as always. I was distracted through the show, but this was the bright spot. This was the bright spot before things get really dark on Saturday with Game 7. Great stuff talking about everything ObiWan Kenobi, Ahsoka, and of course Star Wars Celebration. And I so look forward to seeing everybody at the IHOP party in 2 weeks' time, because it is now's about the time. It's funny, we're ending this show. Now's about the time we'd be starting the IHOP show in about 2 weeks, once you convert your time zones. however that works. I don't know.
There's no conversion here.
Yeah. Great show. Can't wait to do it all again next week, and so looking forward to seeing everybody at Celebration. Make sure you get your tickets for the IHOP party on Eventbrite. Links in the description. both audio and visual and video versions of the show.
Awesome. And you can follow Dominic at DominicJ25. Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Yeah, as always, this was a pleasure. And crunch time, guys. It's happening. It's real. Less than 2 weeks. And definitely, if you get a chance, send us your questions, because I'm learning by talking to. I know a lot of people who are first timers that are going to Celebration for the first time. And I'm hearing a lot of questions like, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that as, a thing to talk about. But, a lot of things that are just like, like, what time do you show up for the con? What time does, I know what time it opens, but what time do you show up? What time you should get in line? Simple stuff that you may be afraid to talk about. It's like, this is a stupid question. No stupid questions. Get it all out there, because chances are someone else might have the same question, or maybe 1,000 people may have that question. So hopefully next week we'll have a very informative show to get everyone prepped up. And he knows maybe we will learn something. So it's gonna be great. IHOP, guys, it's happening. It's actually happening. I'm again like that. I think that's the thing that I'm most excited for Celebration. I think, honestly. Which is saying something, because there's so many other things, but like that is going to be, I can't believe it's happening, for one. And inside jokes, man, sometimes they get out of hand.
Yeah.
So can't wait to do it all again in next week and the week after.
Heck yes. And you can follow Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E. Thank you everybody who super chatted with us this week and supported us financially. You can also do that by becoming a channel member or supporting us over at patreon.com/the SWU. And make sure you check out the cultureslate.com store as well, cultureslate.com/store. Check out our other podcast on our network, Star Wars Culture Chatter Squadron and Ion Canyon. You can find links to that over from the Culture Slate channel. Just look at the other channels affiliated with the Culture Slate channel. You find ours and all of the other ones over there. And swunderworld@gmail.com is where you can send us feedback, especially about Star Wars Celebration. Subject line SWCA. Email us swunderworld@gmail.com. Next week we will answer all of your burning questions related to the convention. So that is it. We are out of here. Thank you everybody so much for watching and listening. We'll be back with another show, same time, same place next week, for Ben and Dominic and all the other great contributors we have here at the Star Wars Underworld. My name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
I just want them to win one during a game, or during a podcast. They always lose during the podcast. This happens all the time. So, real quick, I was just thinking about this. We're still live, so don't start swearing yet, Ben.
Gosh dang it!
The last year during the playoffs, game one was during a show, and that was. They lost that game. That was a game where a very terrible thing happened on the ice, very shocking accident. So that was bad. Then in 2020, they played game 3 of their Columbus series during the show. And I had all sorts of like sound effects ready to go for when they won. And of course, they were winning when the show started and lost by the end of it. And for all hockey fans will know this one. We recorded an episode of the Clone Wars Strikes Back during the David Ayers game. David Ayers being the Zamboni driver who came in to play goal for the Carolina Hurricanes because both of their goalies got hurt. And so I paused the game so that we could record a Clone Wars Strikes Back, the three of us during the Clone Wars season. It was like right at the beginning of the season. And then you come back thinking they must have won this game because they were playing against the Zamboni driver, and they lost. They lost.
Oh,
I don't know. I think this might be
This is
the
a
curse
curse.
of the underworld.
Yeah.
Oh,
next,
no.
if they make it out of this round and there's a game on a Thursday, I'm just not going to show up. I'm just not going to show. We will cancel the show that Thursday. Oh my God! All right, it's a wrap.